Need some help picking a heat press? Then watch this video for our top tips. In today's video, I'm going to be taking you through what we think are the key things to think about when you're trying to buy a heat press. We got a lot of messages each week from people that are keen, they've seen our videos, they want to kind of give it all a go, and they're keen to get into the market for a heat press, a printer, a vinyl cutter, etc. So we thought it would be good to do a series of videos to help go through the key points for each of those three bits of technology. So today we're going to be talking about this, a heat press. Now, sometimes people use the term printing interchangeably with actually what a heat press is. So purpose of today's video, we're going to call this heat pressing. We'll do another video about what to look for when you're buying a printer. And to me, a printer is something that kind of prints the image onto printable vinyl so that then you can press it. So don't mean to be pedantic, but just so you know what we're talking about in today's video. So what are the key things that need to be thought about when buying a heat press? I think the first thing that you kind of need to consider is your budget, because from there, your options either become kind of no longer an option or still an option. And I mean, you can spend anything from like £100 on eBay for a heat press all the way up to like a Hottronic £10,000 for a really high professional grade heat press. When we started out, I mean, I spent about £120, bought a heat press off of eBay, brand new, but off of eBay. It's still going now. Years later, it did the job. It still does the job. You just kind of got to know what its limitations are and when to use it, when not to use it. This isn't the one that I bought initially. You might have seen it in some of our other videos. It's the one in the office upstairs. It's a red and black one, Vivor, and it's fantastic. But have a think about the budget. Once you know how much you want to spend, start thinking about the second thing, which is what type of heat press you want. Now, there's kind of three main ones, I would say. One of them is a swing. So if you can see this, it's a swing one. And what that means is that you kind of get a nice, clear bit of space to be able to line up the shirt, lay it on, not worry about trying to kind of fit underneath, and you kind of swing it back and press it. It's great, but it does need that little bit of space. So it needs some space behind it and to the side. So if you're working in a confined space, it might not be the type that you should go for. The next type is called a clamshell. So a clamshell, as the name suggests, is very similar to this in shape, but rather than it swinging around, it comes up. Now, again, there's a couple of things to think about here. One, how much overhead space have you got? Have you got enough space for it to fully open up overhead? I'd have thought, unless you kind of lived in a treehouse, you probably have got enough ceiling clearance to open it all the way up. But also think about, once it's open, have you got enough space to get in the shirt and get to where you want to kind of get to? I find it hard to believe there'll be too many scenarios where you can't use a clamshell one in a standard room with a standard amount of space doing relatively standard football shirt related things. But, you know, that's the other thing to think about. The final type is called a slide. So it's unlikely you'd get a swing and slide because you don't really need the slide with the swing. It's normally going to come with a clamshell, so it's where you kind of open it up, and then the platen, the platen that it sits on slides out. So where it slides out, that gives you that extra bit of space and what have you to be able to kind of lay the shirt on. You then slide the platen back in, pull it round or pull it down, and then you can press it. So that's the three types that I would say you kind of need to think about, or they're your three options. The next thing is the size of the platen. Now, this one's really quite key because you should really try and buy as big a heat press as possible for the space and budget that you've got. So upstairs, the press I first talked about, the Vivor one, is 38 centimetres by 38 centimetres, which is, you know, it sounds decent size, and it is. It's suitable for most things. But if you've got quite a big football shirt and you want to press the name and the number, you might find that you struggle to get it all done in one go. Isn't necessarily an issue, but if you're using technologies like sublimation, and I'll talk about that in the printing video, but if you're using sublimation, which means it needs the heat from the heat press to activate the ink, if you're pressing it in two separate stages, the ink will be activated to different levels, so you'll then get a difference in colour. So go for as large a platen as you can. This, I think, is a 40 by 50, and I've never had anything be too big to fit on this. But like I say, if your budget is in the lower end, then I'd say the minimum to go for is 38 by 38. The next thing to think about is some of the settings. And the two main ones for a heat press are going to be temperature and pressure. So it's really key that you can adjust both. Now, the type of adjustment that you'll get will either be analog, so something like this, which is kind of like a manual twister or a manual temperature setting, or digital. And the digital ones give you the capability to be a lot more specific with what you're after, whether it's pounds per square inch for pressure, or whether it's degrees centigrade or Fahrenheit for temperature. Even the low end one that I've got, the Vevor one, I've got, although it's got a manual or analog pressure adjustment lever, same as this one, and this is quite a high end one. From a temperature perspective, it's digital in the same way that this is digital. So I've not seen many that have got an analog temperature gauge, but have a think about it. And you need to make sure it can cater for Fahrenheit and Celsius. So depending whether you're working in England or whatever place you are in the world, the settings will either be in Fahrenheit or Celsius. Now, you can easily use Google or what have you to adjust it, but I kind of prefer to work with one type of measurement. And that takes you to the range of temperature that your device can do. Now, for most things with a football shirt, so whether it's flock or vinyl, printed vinyl or standard vinyl, I've only really come across two temperature settings mainly. So in Celsius, you're looking at about 130 degrees Celsius for vinyl and printed vinyl, which is around about 260, 270 degrees Fahrenheit. And for flock, which needs a little bit of a higher temperature, you're looking at about 160 degrees Celsius, which is around about 330 degrees Fahrenheit. So long as you can adjust the temperature on your heat press, and so long as you can set it to temperatures that cover those kind of ranges, then you're kind of laughing. So one of the other things that you need to think about is the fittings, the attachments that come with it. Now, this has just got a standard plate there because I'm only doing football shirts. If you want to start doing hats or mugs, I've even seen American footballs or rugby balls you can press onto, then you'll need something with interchangeable attachments. It's not something I'm going to go into too much here because I never use it. I do this purely for football shirts or any sort of sports shirts. What I found for sleeves, although there is a dedicated attachment you can get, if you use some of these Teflon pads, they can fit up a sleeve like that fine, and then you can press it without the heat coming into too much contact with the rest of the shirt. So you don't have to have a pure sleeve attachment to be able to press a sleeve. You can get away with some relatively low cost items like that. So we're getting back down to the last couple of things to think about. And one of the key ones is around its portability and the space that you have. We touched upon it with the swing one, you need the space to the side, or with the clamshell, you need the space overhead. These are not portable devices, right? They're incredibly heavy. So have a think about putting it in a place where you don't have to keep putting it away. It's going to be, if I had to put this away at the end of the day every day, I'd very quickly fall out of love with using it. So make sure you've got the space to leave it up there almost semi-permanently, and make sure that the surface that it sits on isn't like your mum's sort of antique workbench or your favourite kind of antique dresser, because they're so heavy, it will damage the surface that it sits on. So I've got mine sitting on some adhesive pads, I don't know if you can see it, and they're sitting on top of a marble worktop. So there's not going to be any damage there. If I didn't have the pads, then it would probably scratch the worktop, and I don't really want it to get scratched, so hence the pads. But just have a think about it. Make sure you put it somewhere where you're not going to damage the surface it sits on, or if it's going to damage it, then you're not really too fussed about it getting damaged. So come down to the last consideration I think you need to think about is the safety features. Now, these get very hot. You can burn yourself. You have to be really careful, especially if you're kind of trying to multitask and do other things. So there's a couple of settings that you can get. You can get things like an auto shut off. So if you forget to turn it off, it goes off after 10 minutes of inactivity. Personally, I don't think I've ever forgotten to turn it off. They both have a tendency to beep at you periodically and stuff. So it's not necessarily something I've made use of much, but it's still a good thing to have if you can find it. And the other one is around thermal overload. So that means that the circuit boards in the device, if they reach a certain temperature that they think is above a threshold they want to be at, they're going to turn it off. So if it's in a room or what have you that's getting too hot, it'll prevent blazes, it will prevent you damaging the circuitry of the machine and what have you, and it'll just kind of turn it off because it's got too hot. So they are the kind of 7 or 8 key considerations that I think you need to think about if you're buying a heat press. I'm going to put a list of these in the description for the video, and I'll also put some links to some devices that might be a good idea. If you have any questions, then feel free to drop them in the comments or contact us at WeFixKits on Twitter or Instagram. And if you've liked this video, please remember to click like and subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you again. Thank you.